Welcome back to the Blue Hour. It is Monday, November 20th, and we are 3 days into a lot of interesting things happening around OpenAI and Microsoft. And that's basically all we're going to talk about today because Charlie and I haven't gotten to touch base since Friday, and things have been bonkers.
I know. I'm like writing this thing about what is ChatGPT, and I had an idea last night as I went to that. I was like, oh, okay. I just like, because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just end this as part one with, and then Sam Altman quit. Or no, I'm sorry. And then Sam Altman was fired. And it's like, what a great cliffhanger. But it's literally what happened. He was fired on Friday at like closing bell at 4:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. We should give a breakdown if somebody's listening to this and they didn't pay attention, which I assume most people like aren't tuned in who aren't on the very inside. So how would you break down what the events from Friday to today, which is Monday?
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago was Dev Day on Monday. So 2 weeks ago today went well. People were excited about it. They had to pause signups for Plus, but everything seemed exciting and developers seemed stoked. Microsoft, which we spoke about last week, had their conference, which went well. Copilot was rolled out. Interesting, really cool. Still very much a shareholder in OpenAI's LLC. They own 49%. All that's good. And it seemed very out of the blue on Friday afternoon that Sam Altman was let go as CEO as a result of him. A very cryptic letter or blog post was written by the board. 4 names were mentioned, including Ilya, and Ilya is one of the lead engineers. CTO, or no, I guess Miro is technically CTO. I don't know his technical title.
I think he's chief technologist or chief scientist.
Okay. And he's really active. I'm doing something else. I'm writing about the history of large language models and machine learning and artificial intelligence in general. And he's been around. Elon Musk wrote a tweet about him saying that his judgment is good, and he really thinks that something catastrophic or crazy must have happened in order for him to make this decision. Because the people are kind of attributing this decision to let Sam go from the board, of which Ilya is a part, attributed somewhat to Ilya. The other people are kind of like, they have 3,000 followers on Twitter, relatively small. In terms of like Ilya, who is like, 300,000 or something. I don't really know. He's not as many as Sam, but Sam's been the figurehead. And for this figurehead to be cut off inexplicably is kind of odd, to say the least. And then,
so for reference, it's like they, at like probably 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern time, they came out with this post saying that they had parted ways with CEO of the board, Sam Altman, and they had demoted one of the co-founders. And I don't remember, I think I don't know exactly his title, but Greg Brockman was kicked off as the director of the board and demoted. Shortly thereafter, Brockman wrote on Twitter, he's like, I quit. Like, I'm done. Like, I don't agree with this. So they basically ousted 2 of the co-founders at the same time.
And Greg has a very interesting, Sam had written something, just as a quick aside. Sam was asked, I don't know how long ago, sort of like his ideal co-founder, and he mentioned Greg as like an extremely loyal, extremely thoughtful. He replies to emails always within 15 minutes, like a real exceptional co-founder to have, which was interesting to read about. I didn't read about it at the time, but people have since surfaced that I've since read through. And so Greg leaving in solidarity with Sam, I think it speaks to that it's a really solid example of that.
Yeah, exactly. So like 2 very important people to the fabric of OpenAI gone in an afternoon. And people were like very interested in why. It hasn't been confirmed why. It's mostly conjecture. Some people think there's potentially a big breakthrough, getting them close to AGI, and the board didn't trust Sam. Other people think it was that he was trying to commercialize more than the board wanted. Other people think there's only like 5 people on the board, and some of them are external people. People are contributing it to that. It's not really known, so most of it's conjecture. But what we do know is the next day, basically, OpenAI employees started saying they were going to leave if they didn't bring back Sam Altman. And it sounds like Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella got involved as well, since they've made such a big investment about getting the board together for talks. And did you see the picture of when Sam Altman went to OpenAI? Was that on Saturday or
With the
Sunday?
gas pass.
Yeah, I think that was Sunday, right?
I thought it was too. I don't know for sure. I thought it was yesterday. Yeah, I thought it was yesterday, Sunday.
Yeah. So there were some sort of talks happening on Saturday, and the news quickly changed, and people were putting out news reports that Sam Altman was in talks to come back as the CEO of the board, which is crazy, like less than 24 hours. So there's like a huge amount of outrage, and I think mostly related to the fact that people didn't have context on what was happening. It seemed like a not well thought out move, and it wasn't communicated. The reason for it wasn't really communicated to anybody, including what
He was
seems like,
being yeah, they claimed that he was being misleading, or sort
yeah,
of like had lied,
yeah,
but they were unclear about what the lie was. And then since Ilya's come out and said he wholly regrets having brought this to light, and it's like, what are you talking about?
I know. So it's the the Ilya tweet's crazy because most people like the Twitter back and forth was blaming kind of Ilya for ousting Sam, and then I actually have it pulled up. The tweet is from
This morning.
this morning, and it's Ilya. It says, "I deeply regret my participation in the board's actions. I never intended to harm OpenAI. I love everything we've built together, and I will do everything I can to reunite the company." Which is, and Sam Altman quote tweeted it. So there's this weird thing. I have a list of OpenAI employees' Twitter accounts, and I can go to the list and scroll through. And Sam Altman posted, "I love OpenAI employees so much." And they all, like hundreds of OpenAI employees, were quote tweeting it with just a single heart. And I saw something that said that was people saying, "If you're willing to leave the company," quote tweeted with a heart, which is a weird way to go about it. But it was basically a huge outpouring of people showing that they were supporting Sam and would leave the company if he wasn't brought back.
And there are only 700 employees, and like almost 600 of them has signed a petition to either leave
Yeah.
the company or get him back, like an ultimatum. And that's the vast majority of the company.
Like 90%. That happened. That started last night. Apparently, between like starting at like 1 a.m., they
What
started
the
signing this
fuck?
thing. And by this morning, over 700 employees out of 770 have signed saying that they're going to leave if he's not brought back and if the board isn't all fired.
Yeah, which is gnarly. What?
Uh,
How do you make the, like, it's the fact that people don't. I'm shocked by the lack of coordination.
yeah. We haven't even got to one of the juiciest parts yet, which is last night at like midnight or 12:30 my time, which would be like 2 a.m. Eastern time. Satya Nadella tweeted out that he supported the board at OpenAI and their partnership, but also they had hired Sam and Greg to lead the new AI research division at Microsoft, and the people that they're bringing. So he basically made it so that Sam and Greg will come and work on AI at Microsoft along with anybody who defects from OpenAI, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Sam also tweeted something today, like, me and Satya have like we want to keep OpenAI intact. Fuck, shit's just falling apart. It's wild.
I know, dude. Seriously, it doesn't make any sense. It's really confusing. And there's so many opinions, so many really, I don't know how, there's so many employees at OpenAI who are tweeting, and it's hard to know. It seems as though this happened very spur of the, like, I heard a report earlier that Sachin found out a minute before the announcement went out, and he's at Microsoft, so he wouldn't necessarily know because he's not internal. But it seems as though no one internally knew either, really.
No.
And so then why would you do, like, I mean, so they didn't know. So this is all happening it seems emotionally. It's hard to tell why.
Yeah.
The one thing is like, oh, Sam's like doing something crazy, but it doesn't seem as though and nothing's come to light. Like nothing 2 days later, 3-day news cycle, like this news cycle doesn't stop. So it's been 3 days, and it's not like some crazy thing happened that everyone's now talking about. Everyone's talking about how this is a mistake because Sam's the man.
Yeah. Also, one of my favorite posts I saw was Andrei Karpathy, who's like one of the leads at OpenAI. He came from directing AI at Tesla. And let me see if I can find it. Somebody was like, Karpathy's silence is
Yeah, I saw
telling.
that. Yeah.
And he basically was like, I don't have anything to add. I just don't have anything too remarkable to add right now. I like and respect Sam, and I think so does the majority of OpenAI. The board had a chance to explain their drastic actions, and they did not take it. So there's nothing to go on except exactly what it looks like, which means that even some of the higher ups at OpenAI didn't have any insight. They didn't explain why they did it to their employees, which is wild.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It's almost as though they really don't understand how large their impact is, which seems naive. It's hard to believe that that's the case. Like, how do you act? Like, how do you live in that much of a bubble where you're
Yeah,
not watching Dev Day and looking at the number of people watching these videos? Because the numbers are public on YouTube. You can see the number of people who are watching it,
yeah,
and it's in the millions. You can see the number of people who follow Sam on Twitter. You can see the number of people who are actually getting impressed with these things on Twitter. It's 10 million on some of these things that he's posting. That photo of him with the guest pass got 10 million plus views as of last night. I don't
yeah,
even know what it's at today, but it's like the idea that you would be sort of this would happen in the shadows and no one would notice. It's impossible for me to believe, but it
yeah,
seems like that's what they thought, which is shocking.
yeah. Also, it definitely feels like they're in a bubble because without any explanation, they got like a crazy amount of backlash
Yeah.
just on the fact of the decision, and it just leaves so many like people love to believe the craziest outcome, which is like OpenAI has achieved something that's so scary that they
Well,
had to let Sam
yeah,
go.
let's talk about what do you think it could be? Because like there were when I immediately saw this on Friday, I like spent a couple hours reading into it, and there's like Sam Altman's sister seems like she's a psychopath, and she's been writing about how he abused her.
Yeah,
And I was like, wow, is this actually true? But it's like super weird and very, very weird dark corner of the internet style stuff where it's like, this is hard to believe because
yeah.
he's been in
I
the public eye for so
briefly
long.
I briefly read about that on Friday, and then I looked into some of the claims, and part of it was them trying to get her to take antipsychotic meds, and I was like, oh, she probably has um, some sort of disorder where she is prone to go kind of wild.
Yeah. Which
So I
is fine.
don't.
Yeah. No offense to her at all. I'm just saying, like, when I read it and I looked at her timeline, I was like, she might be a little cuckoo.
Yeah,
I don't know if
so
there's
I
a
don't
reference.
really give much energy towards that. That would
Yeah.
be a wild thing to
So we can
be.
throw that one out, at least for now, until something
Throw that one out.
actually evidence based comes to light.
Yeah, let's talk about the AGI thing because
Yeah.
a lot of
That one
people have
seemed
quoted
interesting.
that 2 weeks ago, Sam was in an interview where he said, he regularly gets to be in the room where the veil's pulled back on what people think is possible. And he saw it again 2 weeks ago, which is something that they haven't put out. But also, that's when Dev Day was 2 weeks
I know.
ago. So was he talking more about people being excited about Dev Day, or was he talking about some sort of new capability that OpenAI has? Like, really, without them giving us information, people will just go to conclusions, which the most exciting one is to be like, they made some huge breakthrough with some sort of AI that can train itself and, has super intelligence, at least in one way without any human interaction, which I'm less likely to believe until I see it.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
it
What do you think?
seems that to me seems like the most likely, only because Ilya, I've been doing a lot of research on him, and I really honestly thought that he was. I still do. I have no reason not to. Maybe that's not so true because this seems very rash. And then his tweet today was like, "Who the fuck wrote this? Like, either you are in or you're not in, and you seem to be towing the line and like confusing everybody." But
Yeah.
one thing that he really says that Sam doesn't seem to say as much unless he's in front of Congress, in which case his tone changes a little bit. But Ilya really talks about how scared he is of AGI and how important it is that we're very, very careful with that tech. And so when I
Yeah.
saw that Ilya was a part of the folks who got rid of Sam, I was like, "Fuck, they found it! Like they have it." And Sam lied about it because he wants to bring this commercially available to the people and just let
Yeah.
it into the wild. I was like, "What?" But Sam's not reckless. Like he's got such a reputation. I don't
Yeah.
know. But in
So, yeah.
Ilya has definitely spoken about how if you actually let AGI run wild without proper training, and it would just pretty much create a matrix scenario where people are like, really, it's just like there would be solar panels everywhere to harness the energy of the earth or of the sun, and then ultimately humans are completely second class to everything that's in the best interest of AGI. Which I understand, like fundamentally from a science fiction perspective, because I like those sorts of movies a lot and reading those sorts of books a lot. But ultimately, it seems so unrealistic to me after watching and reading and trying to write this paper on the history of it. There are so many really smart people who agree that that's a concern, but don't think that we're there yet, who
Yeah.
were founders in this company. It's not like there were just two founders. There were a lot of people who started this company together like 8 years ago. And I don't know. To me, he seems almost like a doom and gloom. I don't know. I'm not sure.
He's careful. Yeah.
And I don't mean that as a rule, but like, yeah.
Yeah. So there's
Sorry.
two terms that people use kind of in the community, which is like accelerationists, who are like, we should speed up the progress of AI as much as we can, and then decelerationists, which are more on the side of we should go slower and be more careful with how we build this so we
Yeah.
understand it every along the way. And some people are claiming that the people on the board who voted him out are decelerationalists, and Sam and Greg are the opposite, which could be true. Also, I think there's a lot of assumptions that Ilya was one of the main drivers of getting him booted. There's really not information for that. He might have been, ambivalent and listened. There was three other people that could have been making cases.
Yeah.
There's another interesting thing I read, which was some people thought that because Microsoft a week and a half ago, like cut off access to ChatGPT for all their employees. Some people are thinking with the new updates that came out on Dev Day, there was a big leak, and Sam wasn't fully honest with the board about it, and that's why they kicked him. Like he was hiding information. I find that to be somewhat hard to believe that he was hiding it from him, but possible that some sort of way that the model could have been used they wouldn't have been happy about. Like if there was something, they pushed it out faster than maybe they thought they should have. And there were some consequences that made them have to pull stuff back. Um, I don't know.
Did you read that the Atlantic came out with something today? It was called Inside the Chaos at OpenAI. Did you see that?
No.
It pretty interesting. Like it talks about it was updated. Yeah, today. Yeah, it came out this morning at 8:15. I don't know if it's what it says. It was most recently updated, but it was talking about how there was a riff within the company when ChatGPT rolled out because it was so quickly adopted that they had to take resources from the security team and put them onto a different team that was more of
Yeah.
a consumer facing side. So it was already short staffed, and then ultimately resources were pulled away in terms of the people. And then that caused a rift between the people who are really, really concentrated in AGI, which is in the mission of the organization which we've spoken about. But they stop working on that and stop focusing on that in order to focus on the consumer side of things, which then ultimately like there's a lot of developers and people are building on top of that, us included, right? And so it's like fascinating. Like there is like the article sort of is very long and like but what it really sort of like paints a picture of is that there's an internally a riff, and this is it coming to an head. And so it's like ultimately coming here. But then when I see them going to Microsoft, that's one of the most surprising things to me is I really didn't see that coming because Microsoft I think of as being like, I mean, everybody loves to make fun of Microsoft Teams, also make fun of Clippy, that little paperclip thing that was like supposed to be helpful that would never was when we were kids. And Microsoft is able to go from like being this like super lame Bill Gates company where guys are like dancing on stage as if they're robots, like talking about Microsoft and Windows 95, to like being like the kind of like the badass Nvidia founders who like wear leather jackets all the time. I don't know. It's like very. I don't know what the right
Yeah.
thing is. That was so surprising to me. I was like, wow, this new CEO of Microsoft is really fucking killing it. Like, if there's a winner in this game, it seems to be him
Yeah.
because he's able to rebrand Microsoft into a way that like I don't even know how. I don't know how history will remember this, but
Yeah. I mean,
seems
they've positioned
like
themselves so well with OpenAI, and also they're including other models in their stack that you can build with directly in their. They have Azure services, which is their cloud services, similar to Google Cloud, and they've really this year gone all in on one infrastructure for AI, but also creating the infrastructure to build in the cloud and build AI apps and services, and then bringing on, waiting until the perfect moment, and then
yeah,
basically getting a lot of people are framing it as like basically acqui-hiring, like acquisition hiring the entire OpenAI staff for almost free, like which is crazy, and just being in the right place at the right time and being willing to like put so much money in front of them is setting Microsoft. Like if I mean it's to be determined once we get off this call, like things could have changed. Like they could
Exactly.
announce Sam's going back to OpenAI, which it seems like all of the employees there want. And if he doesn't, a lot of people are leaving and walking out.
But then again, he just wrote this tweet like 2 hours ago that said pretty much like, I love everyone at OpenAI and we're still very closely tied together as an organization, which is like clearly trying to mitigate the risk of people all fleeing. I think that's the way I read it, was like he's trying to make it such that people don't just sprint away from it.
Yeah. But it seems like over 790 to 95% of the employees have already said they are going to leave if they don't bring them back, which is like, will they? Maybe it's all talk, but also it could be tweeting that as like, scaring OpenAI a little bit more to make actions. It's so juicy. It's the hottest nerd AI gossip I've ever
I know.
encountered.
I'm on a stand up this morning at like 9, and for a very random niche food brand, and one of the girls is like, "Oh yeah, I can't get enough of this drama with OpenAI," and everyone's blank faces on the call. And I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe she just said that." And I also immediately slacked her, and I was like, "I can't believe it either. Are you fucking kidding me?" She doesn't. And then it turns out she doesn't know anything about this industry, but she just like knows about it from Twitter.
Yeah.
And she said she can't get enough. Yeah. So he said, so his most recent, which was 2 hours ago, is Satya, and my top priority remains to ensure OpenAI continues to thrive. We are committed to fully providing continuity of operations to our partners and customers. The OpenAI/Microsoft partnership makes this very doable.
Yeah. So wild.
I know.
Also important under there is Logan, who has been like the lead of developer relations at OpenAI, said we're going to do right by developers. He tweeted out, despite uncertainty, our commitment remains. And, their APIs and ChatGPT have been up over the weekend. Like nothing's fallen apart yet. Um, it's, yeah, crazy, unnecessarily crazy.
I know, dude. It's like when these sorts of things happen and it seems so disorganized, it makes me really wonder how it could be actually this disorganized. It makes me wonder if there is something going on that they're making it seem as though there's disorganization to just sort of like use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard for me to believe when I read about these people and I start to admire them more, and I realize how complicated of thinkers they are, and how truly intelligent some of these people are in this room. It's so hard for me to believe that this ambiguity and craziness and chaos and entropy is able to happen with those. I don't know. It just seems
Yeah.
so unlikely
feel
to
like
me.
I feel like this is a lesson we've learned time and time again, where we expect people to be one more mature and more well thought out and better with other people than they actually are. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this was just a breakdown in human communication and an internal like pissing match or kind of fight
Uh-huh.
between some members and Sam and Craig, and it turns out they wanted to kick him out because they thought he wasn't the best representative of what their vision was, and it had been brewing for almost a year now with ChatGPT. Like with your resources conversation earlier, they had to
Yeah.
shut down Plus subscriptions, and they had such like degraded service last week, and I think mainly because of their launch of all their new things on Dev Day, their GPTs, which is like a consumer product where people can build, they're going to build a store. And if that did take away from the actual work they're doing to try and research building AGI, maybe that was like the straw that broke, but they hadn't been communicating well about that or resolving it or moderating it. Like it could be just as simple as that. And they
Yeah.
just don't have the the social skills to know how poorly this was going to go.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Atlantic article alludes to, is that there's this riff internally, and then with the GPT rollout last or 2 weeks ago, it came as a surprise internally to some of the folks on the security side,
Yeah.
which is astounding. It's like, this is the CEO. How is he not briefing everybody about it beforehand? Like, what? Are you just not listening? Are you like playing World of Warcraft in the meeting and ignoring it? Like, what?
Yeah.
How do you not know? And I guess maybe he's just not communicating. He's on that tour talking with people, and so maybe he wasn't around. I don't really know, but it just seems, yeah, I guess that you're right. I'm disappointed if that's the case, because I just assume that they're more new. I don't even know. I was gonna say nuanced, but I guess just generally it comes down to like being like much more capable.
Yeah, dude. Freaking people are people, man. It's
I'm blown away.
I know. It's fascinating to watch. And for me, one of the things that I've just tried to be like is I can't control whatever they're going to do, but I am operating under the assumption that at least access to the API will exist.
Yeah.
And there's something that people kept tweeting about called the chaos ladder, which is like a quote from Game of Thrones. But like when things are chaotic, you can kind of move up the ladder and take advantage of when things are super. They're kind of saying that's what Satya's doing, is taking advantage of the chaos by getting a lot of the team members and positioning Microsoft, but also just from like somebody building on AI when everybody thinks the world's on fire and you won't be able to build with AI anymore. It's like kind of the perfect time to continue building the fun things.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, almost the opposite. It's actually encouraged me more to build some things that I've been wanting to build. I've been
Cool.
playing around since yesterday with like, okay, let's build some fun stuff
Cool.
because that's way more motivating than thinking about how OpenAI is like potentially ruining their business model, which it's still the most capable reasoning engine out there. They have a
Yeah.
bunch of cool stuff, and I don't think their API or their models are going anywhere. So I'm excited to keep building with them. What it means for a consumer side, like the GPT store, to be determined, I guess. That's something that you and I are both very heavily involved in and building on. So, that puts us in a little bit of a mix up, but I think regardless, there's still so many things that you can build and so much opportunity, and everybody's building similar LLM. So even
Yeah.
if they really did tank it and they didn't let people use it as much, um, there's other places to go that you can pretty easily port over the things that you're building to. So I don't think it's going to be the end of AI, but it was not on my bingo card. They've been doing so well, man. They've
I
been
know, it's crazy. It's like that meme of the dude riding the cartoon of the guy riding the bicycle, and he's going straight, and then he puts an iron rod into his own front spoke and flips the
yeah,
bike.
yeah,
It's like, what are you doing? Why would you ever? What makes you think this is a good idea? This makes zero sense to anybody watching, and you have the internal perspective. You're behind the curtain. Why would you think that this is a good idea?
yeah,
The more that we talk about it, the more that I think that you're right, because it's so easy to sit on Twitter and read all these tweets from people who really don't have any more information. And if they do, it's shocking, because apparently no one had the information on Friday.
yeah,
And so it's like, well, how did you get more context? You probably don't have any. But if there's so many people screaming and yelling, the board's got to resign, they got to bring back Sam, OpenAI is going to crash. I had to stop. I not only stop following, but like block certain people from even showing up on my timeline, because I'm so sick of hearing them scream and yell. They're like or pontificating their stupidity, despite their like success, or at least how successful they think they are. And so like there are a lot of people saying like OpenAI is going to completely fail and burn. I really think that's a completely San Francisco bubble attitude that really lacks an understanding of the customer that is here, because there are still people using the plugins. There are still people signing up net new customers for the plugin. And there are also so many people that don't even use Twitter. It
yeah,
assumes that the world is all on Twitter and every single user sees this, which I know can't be the case. And
yeah.
so it's like, we have 10
Also,
customers. Yeah.
yeah, if you look they said they have 100 million weekly active users, and like some of these posts are getting seen a few million times. Over
That's
90% of people who use ChatGPT aren't really clued into the drama. And
Mhm.
also, they're probably not as tied to the fact that they don't care about the board. They just care that they get to use it and it's cool and it helps them out for the most part. Um, and internal struggles, like if they screw up or if 90% of their staff leaves, then yeah, it will definitely affect the product. And like if they if they reallocate resources and you can't use ChatGPT as much, or they roll back models, definitely people use it less. But if they don't, those people aren't particularly going to go anywhere, especially if they like the product, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, so what happened? So hypothetically, it's very hard for me to believe that 600 of the 700 employees leave. So let's say that that happens.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? You do that because your boss was fired inexplicably? Why would you
Yeah.
not just remove the 4 people who made that decision instead? It just does not compute with me.
Yeah.
I don't
The
understand.
funniest thing is, yeah, of all the people who've signed that letter saying fire the board, both I think 3 of the board members are on there, Ilya, Mura, and another guy. But they're basically signed a thing saying, yeah, fire us for what happened. That way everybody doesn't leave, which is crazy.
So ultimately it just is this is okay, so I think you okay. What? So you're truly right that these people are so really, really, really good at math and science, but socially inept. And so they lack the ability to pick up the phone and call Sam and be like, "Hey, what the fuck?" And instead
Yeah.
they're just like, "Hey, let's fire this guy." And then these 3 professors are like, "Yes, let's do it," without even thinking about it. And then that on a Friday night they do that because they're dumb. What? This makes no sense at all. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
I
Also, these
am
people are under they're feeling the pressure of building towards AGI and having, you know, 100 million people using something they have every week, but also maybe they're what they think the company should be is slowly getting further away. Like GPTs aren't AGI. They're not going to be AGI, and they're not going to help like Ilya create AGI because they're basically doing that on the model side through doing research. And this is all supposed to help one, give people access so they're not scared when AGI comes, but two, give people access to tools to build things, to do fun, like interesting things that maybe they wouldn't think about. But yeah, it just seems to me that it's that kind of schism where they made a really bad decision and didn't talk to him, and now they want to roll it back because it seems like the majority of the board who voted to fire him now wants him back because they didn't realize how important he was to all the people that were working there who looked up to him and talked to him all the time, you know? I think
yeah,
Sam's and Greg are probably better with people than them and
yeah,
more
clearly.
genuine employees, yeah.
There's a reason they're the ones going in front of Congress and in front of the UK, and they're the ones who are the ambassador. I'm sorry, Sam is not Greg, but Sam is the ambassador. I can't
Yeah.
believe that they didn't. That to me was the biggest shock. Is like this is the guy who literally this week was in London at the safety conference on behalf of the organization speaking, and you're going to now like chop out his credibility for what reason? And they still haven't provided a reason. So I really don't understand. It seems
Yeah.
like I feel like there has to be a reason, but maybe that's just me being really naive, and these people are just socially inept.
Yeah. It's very possible. Um,
Crazy. I can't believe that. How do they
yeah.
not hire PR people who are socially capable? How is that not a priority?
Yeah.
What
I mean,
glaring misuse of like funds.
yeah. It's been such a cool thing to be like, OpenAI is the biggest growing company in the world with less than 1,000 employees, which sounds very cool. But then when you realize, oh, there's less than 1,000 employees and they're in their own bubble where they're winning constantly and building these amazing things, but then they act like a company with less than 1,000 people, that's like an early stage startup, which is gut wrenching,
Yeah, dude.
clearly, and hot, saucy gossip in the tech world. It is
Okay.
fascinating to see Twitter as like this is why I don't think Twitter/X will go away at any moment, like anytime. Up-to-date information, insider information, funny takes,
Yeah.
entertainment, like it's hard to not watch that, even though we know most of these people don't have any context. But the CEO of Microsoft, Sam, Greg, and all the main players at OpenAI, including the employees, are interacting through this, and everybody gets a bird's eye view into it, which is such a weird experience that pre-Twitter nobody would have had. You would have had to
Yeah.
wait for news or interviews, and it's real time. I mean, it happened over the weekend, which is crazy.
I know,
And they were
dude.
putting out announcements last night after midnight.
I know I was trying to keep up. I woke up and there's whole new news. I like went
Yeah.
to bed at 1 and I was reading about it for hours. Then I woke up immediately to it, reading more about it because it had changed.
Yeah. It's wild.
I know I couldn't believe it's really astounding. It's like it's been honestly pretty crazy. It doesn't make any sense. I really thought that it would make more sense. I'm
Yeah.
shocked.
And
Um,
it's a fascinating human experiment, like with
I know
what's
that's the
going
thing is like how are we gonna like why do people think it's a good idea? Or why would we not want something that's a better reasoning engine than us? Because clearly we suck at it. Like
on.
if this is a good like there's no better example of how poor of reasoners we are than this, it
Yeah,
seems. Like
I know. It's fascinating, dude. It's so I'm saying fascinating so much, but it's the only way I can describe it because it definitely isn't hopeful or optimistic
no.
and doesn't, sometimes I get worried. I'm like, all these geniuses are going to build all these AI apps and I'll never have time to build anything. I'm like, oh no, we all still kind of have monkey brains.
Exactly.
And it's really hard to go against that human nature of some of these primal instincts that lead to drama that is unnecessary and things that are counter to, building these really cool systems that we all have access to build now.
Yeah. Yeah, I do take a lot of solace in the fact that it's a very global community of people who use the product. Not everybody even speaks English. Not everybody reads English, and so much of this like stupidity and gossip. I think that a lot of people probably feel the way that we do about it. Or at least the way I feel really frustrated and
Yeah.
confused and sort of like just like this is a waste of. It feels like we're in middle school. I hated middle school. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, stop it. What are you yelling and screaming and fighting about? This is fine. Like you're just being dumb. And it
Yeah.
feels like that. It feels like a huge waste of time, waste of energy, waste of like everybody's screaming and yelling. Twitter spaces are so unproductive right now. It's like, dude, just take it easy. Like, let's actually just focus on what's interesting about this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't mean to seem like I'm so pure. I'm really not. And I have a monkey brain, and
Yeah. But at
I
least we
expect these
acknowledge it.
people. Yeah, I expect these people to not act this way. I guess is my
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. We always think other people are going to act, you know, with the best intentions.
Yeah,
Clearly they don't.
yeah,
It's going to be interesting. We'll see, a week from now, there's really no way to know what these companies are going to be like between Microsoft, OpenAI.
yeah, dude. Seriously, I really, okay. So maybe that's what we do is hot takes as we talk about what we think will happen.
Yeah, let's do it.
You
I'll go
first.
first. I think the board's going to be my take is that Sam and Greg will go back to OpenAI before the end of the week or
Wow.
within a week. Yeah,
Oh, I
and
love that.
they retain most of the employees, and the board will be fired, and there will be a new board with more people that are level-headed. Like they'll choose a wider group of people to make the votes harder to just can somebody. I'm assuming Sam will be back as CEO. Most likely, that seems like what OpenAI employees want and why they're all willing to walk out. And Microsoft will be cool with it because they'll probably negotiate something that gives them a little bit more leverage into the stack vote, even though they already have so much invested in them. I think it's in their best interest to have OpenAI really continuing what they're doing
Oh,
because
that's awesome.
that seems like the smartest thing.
Yeah.
It seems like once the adults settle everything down and they negotiate enough, it'll be that, and there will be some governance changes to make it so that they can't do something this drastic again. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I see. What do you think?
I like that take. I think that that would really be helpful. I think for like everybody to just yeah stop screaming and yelling. The thing for me that it is there are a lot of people being very emotional about I'm quitting, and it's I can only imagine from like an HR perspective how I don't mean to be like the weird guy who talks about like the actual practicalities of it, but it's like how do you actually so what do? You just tell everybody who quit that they're welcome back?
Yeah, I guess like a moment of leniency based
Yeah.
on there's so many of them,
Yeah.
like
Well, that's
hundreds of
one of my
people.
points is like it's so it seems like it's the damage is done. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, I don't think there's really much of a company left if they lose that many people. It seems like it could be OpenAI is a team of less than 100 people, and then they have to. considerably scale back. They won't have the resources to manage things like ChatGPT Plus and some of their API stuff. Like things will start breaking most likely with a
Yeah.
smaller team.
Yeah. And then it's like, so then if that happens, what do you even compare this to? This would be probably historic and be unlike anything that's ever happened. I can only think of Napster. Like,
Yeah,
what's another example of a company that failed so gloriously? I don't think that there's nearly as big an example because this was the fastest growing consumer app in history.
yeah,
And so it's pretty uncomparable from that perspective. But then, like, is there anything even close? I can't. The only thing I can think of, like I said, is Napster, which is like a kind of a joke in
yeah,
comparison.
right. Or like an AOL,
Yes, yeah, something like that's probably more accurate. Yeah,
but they were around for longer. Yeah, and then they probably had a slower decline over years.
yeah.
Like this
This would be
is,
precipitous to do it in less than a year from launching the app to then failing. I guess it'd be
yeah,
an 8-year journey in total, but it's like
yeah,
feels like it's very rapid.
yeah,
And it's crazy how the reputation of an organization can really erode over the course of just a couple of days.
yeah. So fast. A testament to the fact that the things can just go away from you like that, you know?
I know.
Especially if you don't appreciate your employees or if you're not really locked into what's in their best interest or making decisions in their best interest, you know?
Yeah, I know. I'm just I love your take. I don't want to change. I don't have a well-informed thing. I really, really was shocked when they went to Microsoft. That was news I woke up to that I was so surprised by. I really did not think that was going to happen because I think of them as being like a slow-moving, glacial pace style organization where Sam Altman, who's like incubated thousands of companies through YC, would want nothing to do with. I
Yeah.
certainly want nothing to do with it, and I admire Sam because I think that I think I admire him for the reasons that he would not want to go there.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's like, I mean,
It's been a good deal, yeah.
oh my god. Well, the thing is, the guy literally shits money. Like he's not doing it for money. So like, are they
Yeah.
just giving him? They said he'd be his own CEO within like its own organization within Microsoft, but it's like, what does that mean? Like he
Yeah.
just was ousted from a board of a similar structured organization where I guess that there was a nonprofit element, which is different, but it's like, how different is this? Like, I don't know. I thought he was going to go start his own thing with Greg. And then it's like, oh, the flood of talent. They could
Mhm.
literally choose anybody they want. Also,
Yeah.
my take on Friday, which I told Eric, was OpenAI is going to hire Elon, uh, which didn't happen.
Yeah.
But this guy that they brought in from Stripe is obviously he's really involved in this industry, and he seems to be more in line in terms of like the doomerism than, or more in line with Ilya, which
Yeah.
is
He's the co-founder of Twitch.
oh, I'm sorry, not Stripe. Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. You Twitch, yeah, Twitch. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Which
Um,
is interesting, yeah.
yeah,
You know, it's it's a freaking AI soap opera right now that we're living through, which is fun, I guess. It gives us
right.
the fact that we can rip for 40 minutes about what's happening.
Oh my
It's just a testament to how weird and out of character it is to go from being the leading AI company to like completely in turmoil and losing all of your employees over the course of 3 days. Astounding.
makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get out of here because this is silly.
Yeah. Oh, the last thing I got to say, I saw a tweet that said the only way that this makes any sense is if a time traveler came back and caused this. And I didn't throw that out there in the hot take, but that's my other one. The time traveler came back and they're like, you need to fire Sam now.
Oh, that's very funny.
Yeah.
It honestly makes more sense than what I think actually happened of just like people being inept.
Yeah, right. I know. All right, let's call it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. All right, sweet. Well, we'll see all y'all soon next week. And happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
All right, thanks. Josiah, someone shout out. Thanks, man. And we'll see you here soon. Ciao,
Yeah.
brother.